evening, good beautiful evening. Welcome to the Career Fusion Spotlight webinar. Career Fusion is networking that works. We offer at Career Fusion an opportunity for you to do pretty much whatever it is you'd like to do career-wise. We help you ramp up your clinical, we help with skill building and networking, and bring opportunities like this one today with Lori Samuels so that she can practice webinar and get her message across. Year-long membership allows you to do things throughout the year and to have opportunities throughout the year that help with your skill building and give you a larger footprint and some more exposure in the industry. Our Career Fusion partners are interested in clinicians and people who are interested in moving forward, people who are really tight into their career and who want to move in a direction that we can help them enhance. So writing or speaking or working for a company, all of those kind of things. Our Career Fusion partners are looking for finding employees, networking, focused groups, training trainers, things like that. They are also looking to have people write articles on their behalf, to do some podium speaking, or maybe even just consulting with the company. We offer opportunities for just about everyone. This is Lori. She's been a Career Fusion member for a couple of years, and you may recognize some of these people also who are pretty emphatic when they say that Career Fusion changed their life. My name is Shirley Gutkowski, and I am the Career Fusion Technology Coach and author and publisher of the Purple Guide series. Our current book, The Purple Guide Paper Persona, is available at rdhpurpleguide.com, and it is a guide to help clinicians get their papers in order, your CV, get a resume that's going to get you a job, things like that. Our helpers, our producers today are Jody Heimbach and Sandra Berger. Couldn't do this without both of them. It's at least a two-person job every day. Today's webinar is called Your Health, Time to Take Charge. And our speaker today is, oh my gosh, that picture turned out bad. Sorry about that, Lori Samuels, who is not only a dental hygienist, she's also a certified health coach. So right now we are going to change the presenter and hand everything over to Lori. And I'm super excited to hear what she has to say.
Okay, thank you so much, Shirley, for allowing me to do this. I'm just going to get this off my screen here. What's happening? I can't minimize this. Can you see the GoToWebinar control panel?
Well, you can just click on your screen here and we can just move forward.
Okay. Well, this is live, so let's go.
We don't see it, so.
Oh, okay, great. Your Health, Time to Take Charge is a subject that I think is really important. And my purpose today is to whet your appetite, to get you curious so that you'll seek some more information. You're gonna hear some things that resonate with you and some things that might not. And I want to help you create a clear image of what your health and your future can be like. I hope to convince you that what you do now will make a huge difference as you age, and to motivate you to make a plan with some action steps so you can create a longer, vital, and more productive life. I would like you to be able to live the life of your dreams. So where do we start? We start out healthy. Most babies are born very healthy. And we can stay healthy as we age, living with optimum health. There are so many studies with people that stay active their whole life, and they live within the limits of optimum health until they're 80 or 90 years old. What is optimum health? Well, this chart shows something that I like to call that's called compressed morbidity. And just for a second, I'm going to show you here. This chart happens to start at the age 50. Perfect health is at the top, and death is at the bottom. And so when we talk about optimum health, it means you're living in the top range here. Optimum health takes you across this line 1 all the way out to 80, 90, or 100 years old when perhaps something happens, you get pneumonia, you break your leg, you break your hip, you have a short illness, and then death ensues. But what's happening today very often is people are getting sick, younger and younger. You probably see that in your practice. They're coming in at not just 50 years old, but maybe 40 years old or 30 years old, which was off this chart. And they're coming in with more and more medications, and they just have this slow decline between these lines here, 2 and 4, I guess you would say. And I say that these people are what we call medically managed. So what is optimum health? How do we get there? It's not very easy to figure that out. There's a lot of information. Well, my story, really, it's about my family history. And things changed a lot for me when I was about 10 years old. My father had a heart attack when he was driving the car with me and my mom. That was the very beginning of heart disease, stroke, angina, years and years of pills and procedures. He lived after that incident for another 30 years, but he had lots of things happen. As I said, heart attack, stroke, and it was a very difficult way to grow up in a family like that. It wasn't just my dad, though. There were other relatives. His sister died when she was 40. She had a heart attack. He had 2 younger sisters that also had heart disease, lung cancer, and breast cancer. And on my mother's side, it really wasn't much better. One of her 6 older brothers was the second patient for the famous Dr. Michael DeBakey in Texas, who did the first bypass surgery. So my uncle was the second patient. It was in 1964, and the procedure was a big success. Unfortunately, my uncle was way too sick to have the procedure, and he did die in the recovery. But they did learn a lot from that procedure, and it became a very successful one. But as you're growing up and you start thinking about your family history, you start to wonder, you know, is this the path I'm going to lead? Well, I was very lucky that I chose the career of dental hygiene, and I mean this very, very seriously. I learned so much in dental hygiene school. I learned, as you can see in this picture, big glasses do not take the place of a mask. I also eventually did learn what that instrument was, and I learned some things that were so much more important, including in anatomy and physiology. The thing that really moved me at the end of the semester was this concept that your body has the most amazing propensity to heal given the right conditions. And this really made a big change in my life. I started to think that I did not have to follow the path of my relatives. I did not have to go down that path with pills and procedures and surgeries. After all, my dad had coronary bypass surgery twice. He had a series of 3 pacemakers. He had his femoral arteries bypassed. He had carotid artery surgery, and so on. So I started to make real changes that made a difference in my life. And it wasn't always easy. You know, life gets in the way. Things happen. You have children. You're working. So I started to jog. I went to yoga classes when I was in college. I became a vegetarian. But, you know, along the way I would waver a little bit. But I had this huge motivating factor. All I had to do was think about them cracking my dad's chest open, and it made me go back to the gym so fast you would not believe it. So you have to think what motivates you, and that is a motivating factor for me. Now, there are many studies and debates about nature versus nurture. I like this study by Dr. Dean Ornish. He studied 50 men with prostate cancer. He didn't really study the men, and he didn't really study their cancer. He studied the genes in these men. After putting these men on his lifestyle program, for which he's famous, 6 months later they studied 500 150 of these genes in these men. 500 cancer promoter genes were downregulated, and 50 cancer suppressor genes were upregulated. So this is one of those studies where it does show that you can change your gene expression, which is very, very exciting and very good to know. Now there are some other studies that I like. This one done by the CDC not all that long ago in 2008, and they went to Potsdam, Germany, and they studied 23,000 people. They studied 4 behaviors in these people to see if healthy living would make a difference. They asked them 4 questions. Do you smoke? Do you exercise regularly? Do you eat a healthful diet full of fruits, vegetables, and grains, whole grains? And do you control your weight? Well, they found out what lifestyle can do because 4 correct responses translated to 80% reduced risk of heart disease, 90% reduced risk of diabetes, and 60% reduced risk of cancer. And I think that's pretty amazing. Even 1 correct answer would translate to a 50% reduction in the risk of any disease. So again, lifestyle is really important. We have our first poll question here. Sandra?
All right, the first poll question of the night. What is the most critical and almost epidemic health issue today? Is it heart disease, obesity, or diabetes? So we'll give you a second to find your mouse and get yourself all acclimated to polling. Da-da-da-da. About half of you have voted, a couple more. And there we go. That's everybody. Oh, I think we're going to be happy. The results are, drum roll, Lori, everyone said that obesity was the most critical and almost epidemic health issue today.
What a clever audience. Very good. I'm really impressed. So did you know that over 1/3 of Americans are either overweight or obese? Apparently, you do know that. So good. We can keep going. Whoops. There we go. Sorry. Just to show you how fast these trends are changing, I wanted to bring to your attention these slides from the Centers for Disease Control. In 1985, they started to collect data from each state reported adults' weight in relation to their height and weight, and anybody who was over a BMI of 30 was reported in as overweight or obese. So that's how it started in 1985. Not all the states were reporting, and we have less than 10% in the light blue and 10 to 14 in the darker blue. In 1990, almost all the states are reporting, and the darker blue number is being a little bit more than the lighter blue, so more states are showing heavier numbers. In 1995, we get 15 to 19%. The east side of the country is not doing very well, and now we have over 20% or over added in, and we're starting to add 25 to 29%, and then the dark orange or almost red is 30% or over. So in 2010, which is the last year that I had from the CDC, we have gone from 10 to 14% and no states reporting less than 20% of obesity, which is really sad. And these numbers, if you know anything about public health, which I'm sure some of you do, these are underreported numbers. So if it says 30% or more, you can be sure that this is even more. And what's very sad about this is that this is not just about adults. What happens to adults eventually happens to children. And so here is from 2007, 35.1 in the very darkest red colors. 35.1% of children are reported to be overweight or obese. Now with children, I think they are willfully exclusive because the BMI between the 85th and 95th percentile is what's classifying them as overweight. And I think it's very hard for doctors to tell parents that their children are overweight, and so they're trying to be very cautious. And so again, I think these numbers are underreported. So obesity is also a precursor to diabetes. And the diabetes trends are shown also from the CDC. This is a map starting in 1994, where you can see as before the numbers are increasing as the colors are added to the chart, and you're going to see 1996 and 2000, the same area where we had the higher numbers of overweight and obesity, we're seeing the higher numbers of diabetes. We have another poll question here. I believe it's Shirley doing it.
It's a team effort. I'm reading. Sandra's clicking the buttons, clicking the change over thing. Are children susceptible to adult onset diabetes? Yes or no? Well, we have a pretty savvy audience here today, so I'm pretty sure they're going to get the right answer. We've got about half of everybody voted. A couple of more seconds here. Couple of more seconds. Come on, click over here. Get your mouse ready. All right, there we go. Well, let's close this down, and we will be surprised, not really, by the results of this poll question. Are children susceptible to adult onset diabetes? 100% of the audience said yes. Ta-da.
Excellent. I'm really happy to hear that. So what really concerns me about that is that they changed the name, because I don't know how old all the people in the audience are, but when I went to dental hygiene school, there were two kinds of diabetes. There was type 1, type 1, which was juvenile onset, and type 2, which they now call adult onset, or vice versa. So I think they should change the names, and they should still call type 2 diabetes adult onset, so that we know that children are getting an adult disease. This is a disease of middle-aged sedentary adults, and so they shouldn't really call it type 2 diabetes. So anyway, what happens is what happens to us affects the people around us. Oh, here we go. Hang on one second. I'm in the wrong mode here. Childhood obesity is seen as a warning sign to heart disease, and in this article, the doctor that they quoted said that obesity and its complications would result in cardiovascular disease becoming a pediatric illness. I find that shocking, and these are the things that keep me up at night. So I want to help people learn how to be healthier so that they can help the people around them. Obesity is growing so fast that if the current trends continue, 103 million Americans will be considered obese by 2018. That's only 5 years away. If the current trend continues, results suggest that by the year 2048, every adult will be overweight or obese. And if current trends continue, by 2018, the per capita spending will rise from $361 a year to over $1,400 a year, and I believe these numbers have already gone up. So by 2018, we will be spending roughly $340 billion annually on obesity, which is a tripling of the current levels. Now, this doesn't affect our health, but it affects the economy of our country. It affects the economy of our household. So it's so important to really do something about this before it gets out of hand. Now, this is a really interesting graph. I love it because what it shows, if you watch the purple line here and you see the spike where it says the United States, we spend the most money in the whole world per person on health care. And yet, if you look at the bar graph, here, we are right here next to Cuba in longevity. Cuba spends the least amount of money on health care per capita, and we live just slightly longer than people in that country. So it just goes to show that spending money on health care really doesn't make you healthier. We're not getting the result we want by spending more money. So let's stop thinking about health care. I like to call it sick care. And let's start thinking about self-care. Creating health from the inside out. And the secret to change, because it can be overwhelming, is really not thinking about what you can't do anymore, what you shouldn't be doing, but focus your energy on what you can do, new foods, things to take out of your routine, how to get exercise into your routine. Instead of thinking about how you don't like it, try to find something that's fun. So I'm going to break this down into 3 sections now. We're going to talk about primary food, which is something you might not be familiar with, and how that causes stress and possibly weight gain. And then we're going to talk about food and what we can do to make changes in that so that we don't have weight gain. And we're going to start with external factors. These are things we have the least control over, like advertising and marketing, modern living, processed food or the food supply, and environmental toxins. These all affect weight gain, and being aware of them will help you make different choices that will help you be aware so that you can avoid the pitfalls of all these things. Let's talk about advertising for a little bit. The big businesses are advertising to children, they're advertising to teenagers. There's often misleading claims and misinformation on the packaging of products. Front label packaging is something that you should be very aware of. If you're buying something in a box and it has a claim across the front, be very suspicious and read the label. This happens to be from a real box of Rice Krispies about 5 or 6 years ago. A professor from NYU was working with a reporter from the New York Times, and they just randomly went into the food store. She was trying to convince him that these misleading claims were everywhere, and actually because of their research the FDA made them take this box off the shelf. So eating Rice Krispies does not support your immune system. Another thing about marketing in restaurants, there's large portions, there's large plates, there's all this draw to get these fancy foods that really aren't good for you. The drug companies are also advertising. Every other commercial on TV is for some drug that you probably need if you think really hard. Lipitor, all these statins, they're not advertised as much anymore, but the reason I put this on here is because the side effects of Lipitor or some of the other statins is causing people to have trouble with their blood sugar levels. They've come up with another pill that combines 2 pills in one. So you can get your blood sugar pill and your statin all at the same time. There are some people, I'm sure, that need to be on a statin. I'm not a doctor. I'm not recommending anybody change their medications. But I'm sure there are many, many, many people that could reduce their cholesterol levels to a healthy level just by changing their diet and exercise routines. Modern living is another thing that is really making it hard for us. After all, before World War II, calories were relatively scarce and food was not as easy to get as it is now, and exercise was really unavoidable. People walked everywhere, they carried their groceries, they walked upstairs, every single building didn't have an elevator. We didn't have all the modern conveniences in our kitchen, so we were stirring and chopping and mixing. We didn't have a remote control for our TV if we even had a TV. We didn't play sports on a video game with a little hand control. If we wanted to play football, we went outside and played football. So the other day, Shirley had a chiropractor on her show in the morning, and I don't know if Shirley said it or the chiropractor said it, but I got this little sitting is the new smoking, and it really stuck with me. Because we're sitting and we're just not moving our bodies, and it's just so bad for us. We're all suffering from that. The other thing that we talk about when it comes to external factors are food supply. Now, wheat is a perfect example. A lot of people are on a gluten-free diet. This is not a diet to lose weight. It's a diet because they've changed the wheat. They've actually figured out how to grow our grains and all our crops in smaller spaces. They use less water. They use a lot of chemicals so that they are not attacked by all they use chemicals so that they're disease resistant. And so it's actually changed the wheat. It's not the same wheat my grandparents ate or maybe your grandparents ate. So people's systems aren't able to digest it in the same way, and that's why we're having problems from gluten. Corn, soy, and peanuts are other crops that you should be very careful about. They're very highly sprayed with pesticides and chemicals. So when looking for those crops like peanut butter, look for the organic brands because that way you know that there are less chemicals, if any, in there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly when it comes to food supply is factory farming. Most of the animal food that you buy in the food store comes from factory farms, and if you don't know anything about that, there's a great video called Food Inc. It's a DVD. It might be on Netflix. I'm not really sure, and it really explains about it. But the animals are living in really horrible conditions, overcrowded. It's chickens and pigs and cattle, and the chickens they've figured out how to feed them food so that they grow fast. They grow so fast that their legs can't hold them up. They're in overcrowded conditions, to say the least. Sometimes they cut their beaks off so that they don't peck at each other, and they're very stressed. And so there's this theory about the transference of energy, about eating animals that are stressed causes you to be more stressed. And heaven knows we have enough stress in our lives. We don't need to be adding more. So another thing about these farm animals, I don't know if you know this, but 80% of the antibiotics sold in the United States go to the chickens and the pigs and the cows and the other animals. And most of those antibiotics are for preventive reasons because they're getting so sick in the conditions that they're being raised. So we have another poll question here, number 3. We're going to switch.
All righty, there we go. We got quick fingers now. What is more important, calories in versus calories out, or the quality of the calories you eat?
I'm expecting everybody to know this.
I'm expecting that too. We have such a savvy audience today. Well, we usually do. Today's is even more savvy than usual. All right, we've got a little bit over half of everyone who has voted. What's more important, calories in versus calories out, or the quality of the calories you eat? And that's good. Let's give it a rest here and see what our smart audience has said. What is more important? 75% of our audience said that the quality of the calories you eat is more important than calories in versus calories out.
Excellent. They are right. Eating the nutrient-dense way, Dr. Joel Fuhrman and many others are recommending that the old theory of calories in versus calories out is really not the thing that we want to be. We don't want to only think about that. It's good to be aware of that, but if you're eating the right foods, you don't really have to worry about it. So Dr. Fuhrman came up with something called the Andy score. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I can't. Here we go. And the Andy score is just, it's a GPS for the food store to get through. It tells you from the number really 0, because cola is down here at 0.6 and kale is at the top of, at 1,000, where food ranks in what's good and what's not good. Obviously, the higher the number, the better the food. There's another system called the Newbow system. I know it's in Kroger stores all across the country, over 21 states, over 600 stores. This is produced by Dr. Katz, Yale University, and I like this one a little bit better because it's 1 to 100. 1 to 1,000 is too many numbers for me. Mathematics is not my thing. But even if it's not in your store, if you just look at this, it gives you an idea of what you're aiming for. The new VAL system makes it very clear, and so does the Andy score. So calories in, calorie out is out, because that would mean you could take those little 100-calorie bags of chocolate chip cookies, and if you were on a calorie diet, you could just eat the right amount of those and exercise to offset the calories and everything would be great. But that's not true, because those calories are full of high fructose corn syrup and other things that really don't process well in our body. And there is a brilliant video on YouTube by Dr. Robert Lustig from the University of California in San Francisco. It's quite a long video. It's about an hour, maybe a few minutes more, but it's really worth seeing. It's called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. And really what it is a lecture to medical students. And to put it in a nutshell, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, is not metabolized by our body like regular sucrose. It causes insulin resistance, diabetes, it raises our LDL, it causes fatty liver disease, and it is addictive, and it makes you want more. And anybody who ever had a bag of Oreo cookies in their pantry, and I am guilty of this, you know you can't just have one or two. You're going to keep going back and eating them until the bag is empty. So I think that kind of proves that. So now we're going to move on to primary food. This might be something that you're unfamiliar with the title, but I think when you see this you're going to realize primary food is something that you really have to work on, and I like to relate it to sailing a boat. You know, you can be sailing on this most beautiful day and the wind is just the way you want it and you're sailing in the right direction. But with this primary food, every once in a while you're going to get a wind gust and it's going to knock your boat off course a little bit. But if you're a good sailor, and I'm sure you're all good sailors, you're going to adjust your sail, you're going to come about or tack or whatever you have to do, and you're going to get back on course. And it's a balance. So we're going to just go through some of these and start with relationships. Relationships are really important to nurture. This is our connection to the people around us that we care the most about. Whether it's your family or your friends, nowadays we are so isolated by our phones and our computers. Here we are all sitting in our homes. So fostering relationships, hopefully in person as much as possible, is a very, very valuable thing, and it really reduces stress. The next thing is spirituality. Whatever that means to you, whether it's organized religion or sitting on a park bench and doing some mindful meditation or whatever kind of meditation you like. It lowers your heart rate, it lowers your blood pressure, and it gives you a connection to the universe. Exercise, of course you knew this was going to be on the list. There's so many options. Indoors, outdoors, hiking, mountain climbing, whatever floats your boat. I like to recommend hula hooping while you're watching TV. It's really good for strengthening your core muscles. Your career, what you do all day long, is really important. So if you're miserable at work, you need to figure out why and do something about it. These things that add stress to your life can cause you to gain weight and make it difficult for you to lose weight. The other thing that's really important, and this is something I had to work on, was finances. Now, I always kind of put it aside, but I had to work hard to understand how the finances worked. And now I take a bigger part in our family, and I feel much better about things because I know what's going on, and I feel like I am being proactive. The other thing that's on there is home cooking. Cook with your family. This is my family on Mother's Day. Everybody was cooking a delicious meal for me. Got even my husband cooking, which is just a miracle. He's fixing the Brussels sprouts. My son's got the fish. My other son's in the back there making a salad. If you have small kids or big kids, cooking together can be really fun, and we love that. And last but not least, and I think this might be the most important thing, is self-care. Really take time to take care of yourself. This is not a selfish act because, after all, are you the kind of person that shows up for your friends if your neighbor calls and says they need you to go to the grocery store because they're sick, or Johnny has to go to soccer and they have a flat tire, or your mom needs a ride to the doctor, or your sister needs some help with something? I'm sure you're the kind of person who would drop everything and go run for that person. But I think what's really important to take from this is to show up for ourselves, to make time for ourselves so that we can be the best that we can be, so that we can perform at work, so we can be the best mom, so we can be the best partner in life. So we're not stressed out and snapping at the people around us. Self-care is really important. So we're going to switch gears now and talk about food. Everybody wants to know about food. What's the right food to eat? What's the wrong food to eat? I would just say consider adding clean, fresh, whole food to your table. And concentrate on adding in the new things and not so much on what you shouldn't be eating. If there's something you're really craving, then have it. Have it in a smaller portion, but continue to add in the new, fresh, whole foods. Michael Pollan gives us some good advice about this. Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. Well, this advice isn't all that easy to follow, but it's a good guideline. He has a couple of books out that are really informative. One of them is called Food Rules, and it really boils everything down to the very basics. It's a little tiny book, and if you're interested in that, it just puts things in a different perspective for you. It says, eat food that's grown on a plant, not made in a plant. So it's talking about processed food. Again, it puts things in perspective for you. What I like to stress is be a food detective. When you go to the food store, bring your glasses so that you can read the labels. I was at work, this was last year, and my friend was all excited. She says, oh, I got this great new soup. It's high in fiber. I know I'm supposed to eat more fiber. And I said, oh, that's great. And she ate her soup and ran out of the kitchen, and I grabbed the can from the garbage and took a picture. I'm so bad. Anyway, you'll notice the sodium content of this soup is 690 milligrams per serving. So there's 2 servings in this can, 1 cup each. And I guarantee you she ate both servings because it's not that big of a can. And so she had over 1,300 milligrams of sodium in that one meal, which is over your daily allowance. You've got to be really careful. 1 can of beans is not the same as the other. Always read the labels. The can on the right, 390 milligrams of sodium. The can on the left, 15 milligrams of sodium. So it's not always that obvious. So here's a little something that might be good for you. The Environmental Working Group has a great website, and on there every year they have the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 list. This is the one for 2013. The foods on the Dirty Dozen side are the ones you want to buy organic. Apples and celery are always on the top of the list. And the Clean 15 on that side, those are the things you don't have to worry about. So if you want to start buying some organic things, this is a good guideline. This is an easy way to make some new choices and feel like you're going in the right direction. There's also lots of other information on the Environmental Working Group site about cleaning products and shampoos and makeup and things like that. So if you want to buy some food in the food store and look for the organic section and read the labels, that's a good way to go. But there's other options too. This time of the year there are farmers markets. You can go to farms if you have them in your area. I belong to something called a CSA. It's called Anchor Run Farm. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. You take a little bit of a chance. I pay my farm before the season starts, and every week you go to the farm and you pick up whatever they're harvesting. I used to, the first year or two that I belonged to this farm, I used to literally take a picture of my farm share every time I brought it home. And I think this is from a year or two ago, and you can see it's late in the summer. There's tons of tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, potatoes, onions, edamames, lettuce. It's hard to go to the food store after this. And then if you notice on the left, our farmers got a beekeeper to bring beehives. So we get fresh raw honey from our farm, which is so awesome. I'm so lucky and grateful. Another thing you can do, this actually is my son's friend's house. They built a deck. It's in Baltimore. And they do container gardening. They don't have a yard, but they were able to make some space and use it. They have herbs and tomatoes and all kinds of things. This is in my backyard. This is where I plant my herbs. I buy these little, they look like sawed-off garbage cans, the old metal ones. They're about 18 inches or 2 feet high. I have a couple of them. I went down the basement. I got my husband's drill. I put the biggest drill bit on there. I flipped those babies over. I drilled some holes in the bottom, and there you go. I had a little mini garden, and that's at the beginning of the season. And for the rest of the whole season, I have fresh herbs every single day, and it's just fabulous. But one thing I want you to remember about food, I want you to enjoy it. I don't want you to think you have to eat kale every day, 3 times a day, just munching on kale. You can season your foods, eat fruits, don't forget the chocolate, high in flavonoids, lots of good things in chocolate. So you do want to enjoy your food, and you want to enjoy it with your friends. So now we get to the last section that I saved for the end about toxins in the environment, toxins in your house, in your kitchen. Indoor pollution is a big topic today. Toxins are sneaking in your home on all kinds of foods and in all kinds of your products. If you're having trouble losing weight, you might be surprised to find out that toxins might be the problem. They're lipophilic. They love fat, they're fat-loving, and they're stored in fat cells to protect our liver. So we want to try to avoid some of the toxins that are the most common in our environment, and an easy place to start is the kitchen. One of the toxins in the kitchen that you'll find is phthalates. They're plasticizers, and they're also used to fix chemicals or colors. They have been known to be synthetic. There are synthetic estrogens, and they've been known to mimic or block natural estrogen in the body. So a good thing to do is to change your plastic food storage containers for glass, and your plastic utensils for stainless steel or wood or bamboo. It's an easy change. The other thing I do is I buy those canning jars, and I use those for storage all the time. My rice is in there, seeds are in there, nuts are in there. It's great. Another chemical that comes in your house in canned food is bisphenol A, BPA. This is just one of a number of bisphenols, and it's used to harden polycarbonate plastics, and it's found in the epoxy lining of cans. One of the reasons that I love this brand, Eden Organic, so much is that their cans are also BPA free. So you can, if they don't have them in your food store, you can order them online. So if you're trying to reduce your meat intake, you can have some protein from beans and try this brand. It's really excellent, and again, low in salt and BPA free. And the other and last thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to toxins that are sneaking into your home is in the cleaning fluids that you're using. The dish detergents, the hand soaps, laundry detergent, it goes on and on. So what I started doing was just slowly changing over. I'm not suggesting that you throw anything away, but the next time you go to the food store, just look in the aisle and see, okay, which dish soaps are organic brands. They don't have the phthalates that are used to fix the scents. And you're exposing yourself to these chemicals every time you wash your hands and you wash your dishes. So that's a good place to start. Another thing to try is the laundry detergents. There are so many brands out there that are very comparable to the ones that you're used to using. I used to be a Tide. I used Tide for years and years and years, and then I switched over. I like the 7th generation, and I like Myers, but there are lots of good brands, and they're easy to find, and they're in all the food stores now. So as you can see, there are so many things you can do that will affect you in the long run. It can be a little bit overwhelming. But just consider peeling back the layers a little bit at a time. Don't do everything at once. Just think about one thing that really resonates with you and then go for that. The one thing that I really want you to understand, that if you have weight issues and health issues because of that, it's not your fault. There are all these external factors, advertising, the drug companies, branding in movies, and all these things. This is a video store. Look at the candy and the soda that they had there. I mean, we're just bombarded with all these high fructose corn syrup products. So it's not really all your fault. And I don't want anybody to feel bad about it. But you don't have to be to blame for the problem to be part of the solution. The power center is really in you. And what you have to do is just find your motivating factor. It can be that you want to see your grandchildren. It can be that you want to travel around the world when you retire. It can be that you don't want to have your chest cracked open like me. Whatever works for you. But making adjustments today can really change your tomorrow. Chronic disease does not need to be the part of the story of your life. Shirley, I think we have our last question, and I know everybody's going to get this right.
It's just got everybody sitting up and taking notice of their own thing. I really like how you say it's not really your fault, but you still have the ability to change. Is there one perfect diet for everyone? This is for our super smart audience to take a crack at. Is there one perfect diet for everyone? Yes or no? Couple of more seconds here. We got a little over half of everyone has voted.
I know they're going to get this right.
I'm sure they are. All right, let's close it down.
Okay.
And the answer revealed is there one perfect diet for everyone? 100% of our super smart audience said no.
Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all diet. We're all different. Listen, if you live in Key West and your sister lives in Alaska, you're not going to be eating the same food. It's just, it doesn't work that way. It's hot in Key West. You want to have salads and light food. It's cold in Alaska. You need more fat. Otherwise, you'll freeze to death. There's so many factors involved. Diets are totally out, but lifestyle changes are totally in. Uh-oh, hang on. So do you think your health affects aging? Of course it does. Is it normal to develop heart disease and diabetes and cancer? No, it does not have to be normal. Is it normal to live in pain as you age because you're carrying all this weight around? No, it doesn't have to be normal. And is it normal for your health to decline when you're 30 and 40 years old instead of living at this optimum health? No, it is not normal. It does not have to be. Living a healthy, productive life is possible well into your 80s and 90s. I'm not planning on spending my future going from doctor to doctor. What about you? So now you're probably thinking, what do I do now? I have all this information. Where do I start? Well, if you want something you've never had, then you've got to do something that you've never done. It's bewildering. It's a lot of information. Where do you start? Well, I have these 7 steps for you. Get a journal, whether using your computer or a spiral binder, whatever works for you. Keep it on your bedside. Set a goal. Make sure your goal is something attainable. If it's a weight goal, you're going to want to lose 100 pounds, you can't have your timeline be a month. So your goal and your timeline have to be coordinated. Create mini goals for your big goal so that along the way you can have little celebrations as you meet these goals. Set up a reward and a penalty for yourself. So as you meet your goals, let's say it's a weight goal, you want to buy a new dress, or you want to buy a new shirt, or you want to buy a pair of jeans. That might be your reward. Maybe you want to get a massage. That's going to be your reward. If you don't meet your goal, maybe you're going to have to mow your neighbor's lawn or walk your dog every day around the block instead of having your son do it. So you can play with this and make it fun. But when you have your journal, it doesn't work unless you read it, review it, and write in it every day. And my last tip for this is to be grateful. Every day when you write in your journal, write down one thing that you're grateful about. And it will change your whole outlook on life. It will make it easier for you to not stress about the things that you're working on because you can appreciate all the things that you have done. So that's it for my presentation tonight. You might want to consider a health coach as a guide and support to keep you accountable so you can reach your goals. And I hope that you can not dream your life, but live your dreams. That's it for me, Shirley. Any questions?
That was awesome. Thank you so much. I am entertaining questions here if you want to type them in. That'll be terrific, and I will pass them on to Lori as we go through here. One of the things that is I like your 7 steps. If you want to back up to that, I think that would be really helpful to just have
Sure.
as we're waiting for people to finish typing their question into the box. Is this idea that there are so many external factors and that you do need to kind of be a detective to figure out what it is that's really causing whatever issue that you're having, and catch it early. I was talking to a friend of mine today whose husband is seriously ill, and he's just going from one illness to another. It's crazy, and there's really no reason for him to be upright, for one thing. And it's just doctors, 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 doctors. And she's finished with her cancer treatment. So I just can't imagine a life where all you do all day is go from one doctor's appointment to another.
It's very hard to watch people go through that. And it's bad enough
really
when they
painful.
have cancer or something like that. But when they're just aging badly, when they're just being medically managed because they have a blood pressure pill and a this pill and a that pill and they have to go every 3 months for blood work. I mean, you see these patients all the time in the dental office. I don't want to live like that.
No. I know another doctor who said he wants his disease diagnosis and his death to be very close together.
Well, that's compressed morbidity.
He wants to get sick and then go. He doesn't want to have any of this shenanigans in between. He just wants to my husband calls them tip overs. He just wants to just tip over and just be done.
Well, wanting it is half the battle. But,
yeah.
Being aware of it, a lot of people don't even, think that they might have some control over that. So that's half the battle, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. You have a lot more control than what you would think. So we don't have any questions, so I'm going to take the screen back over here and invite everyone to our Limping Along Career Fusion site. It seems like all computer issues happen at once, and careerfusion.net is a little bit sick right now. But we have room for you if you are not already a member of Career Fusion. We saved you a spot down here in the front. We have a lot to offer everyone. We've had a couple of revamps this year, and it's even better than what you would have imagined and better than it had been in the last couple of years, thanks to a lot of help from some of our Career Fusion long-timers. I'd like to invite you to my radio program every morning at 7 a.m. Central, where we talk about just a bunch of different health issues and have it from a dental hygiene perspective. And that seems to be really lacking from my experience anyway with talk radio. There's a lot of programs on the radio and regular radio and internet radio that deal with health, but nothing from a perspective of dentistry. And they never, ever talk about the health of the mouth and how it relates to the rest of the body. You can find us, follow us, and like us all over the place, and I encourage you to do that. And I would like to thank Jody and Sandra for helping me again today, and thank you so much, Lori, for putting all your hard work into a few slides and sharing it with the rest of the class today.
No problem. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and stay tuned, and we will be continuously feeding information to everyone about our upcoming webinars. Thank you.
Night.